My name is Phil Coppola. I am the mobile evangelist at HID. I've thrown a QR code on the screen there if you want to just take a moment and take a picture of that, and that will connect us directly on LinkedIn, where I post all sorts of content all about HID and more specifically, all things to do with HID Mobile. My goal for today is in this next half an hour to give you the full education you need on why folks are adopting mobile credentials, what are the leading indicators there, and then ultimately, what are the options? There's Bluetooth, there's NFC, there's wallets, there's apps. You've kind of heard it all, right? Well, at the end of this, you should know everything you need to know in terms of making a decision that's right for your organization. So with that, let's dive in. First things first, just in terms of trends, what we see as HID is that the physical credential market over the next 5 years will grow by about 5%, whereas in that same time period, mobile credentials are going to grow by about 50%. So if you're not already thinking, or I should say, if you haven't already deployed a mobile credential, you're probably thinking about it or you've probably heard about it. And there's a high likelihood over the next 5 years, you will probably adopt one in some way, shape, or form. That's all predicated on the fact that everybody's got a smartphone these days, right? Gone are the days where people would say, well, I'm interested in mobile, but not everybody has a phone. In the United States, more than 80% of the population owns a smartphone. In the world, more than 90% of the population owns a smartphone. And I think most interesting is that all of our time now is dedicated to these tiny screens in our pockets as opposed to maybe 10 or 15 years ago, that 5.5 hours that we spent on our mobile phone every day was usually spent on the TV. That's not true anymore. And actually, we will check our phones on average 96 times per day, which is like uh, 10 times an hour or something like that. Some crazy number like that, right? So we're at a phase in our culture and in society where we're looking to derive more value from our phone and looking to do more stuff with the phone, right? So as an organization, what are the leading reasons beyond the fact that now everybody has one of these in their pockets? What are the advantages and what are the reasons why some organizations are choosing to move from a plastic card footprint to a mobile credential? Well, the first one is around sustainability. Um, for every 100 square foot of office space, you're going to release about 16 metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere over a 10-year period. And that 100 square feet is in reference to maybe your card enrollment station. And right, you can draw a very clear line between that 100 square feet and more. So in the United States, we use 15.4 kilowatt hours per square foot of office space for energy consumption. And then there's a very easy calculation that you can make there to greenhouse gas emissions. So if your organization has environmental sustainability goals, corporate social responsibility goals and mandates, and you really want to start reducing your carbon footprint, well, it's not just getting rid of the plastic card itself. Yes, there's an environmental footprint associated with plastic, but it's more around getting rid of those enrollment stations, the printers, the electricity, the heating, the cooling, the air conditioning that's going on with your card enrollment station. So sustainability is a great way to start the conversation. The other conversation is around cybersecurity. We know at HID most end user organizations burn through their entire card stock in roughly a 3-year period. And a lot of that is due to the fact that people lose their cards. We know that the industry average is around 17% of people will lose their cards per year. The more card holders you have, the more cards you're going to lose. And ultimately, that lost card represents a major vulnerability to your security posture because not only did you lose a card with your picture on it, with the company's logo on it? So now I know who you are and where you work. But I also now have the access control rules to your front door and to any other doors that that person had access to until the person reports that card as lost or stolen or missing versus a mobile credential, right? I don't know about you, but if I lose my phone, I'm going to know about that pretty quick. And then I'm going to run to iCloud and I'm going to deactivate that phone. So, from that perspective, Just securing the credential on a person's phone gives you more ability to control that experience and to limit that vulnerability. And then, of course, there's user experience. Like this was probably me in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? I had to have all the gadgets. All that stuff is now in your pocket, right? All that stuff is on your phone. And with Apple users in particular, Apple users report that they have at least 75% of them have at least one card in their Apple Wallet, meaning 75% of iOS users, and I would venture the same is true for Android users, are trained to take their phone, tap it to a payment terminal, and do something with it. And so that what that means is there's absolutely no learning curve here. In fact, I would say for the generations that are coming out of university that have been using student ID in wallet and student IDs on their phones, that it's more of a learning curve to give them a plastic card to tap to a reader than it is for you to just give them a credential on their phone. But ultimately, right, we all look at this in terms of dollars and cents and return on investment, right? Those all those other reasons have clear ROI, but the clearest ROI is how much money is this going to save me? What is this going to cost me? And really what it boils down to is credential management or the difference between a 12 and a half minute provisioning process versus 1 minute or less. And we know, again, as HID, the industry average from a provisioning perspective is roughly 10 to 12 and a half minutes per physical credential. If you're a large organization, it may actually take longer than that because you have to go through certain approval processes, right? I'm a new hire. I have to ask for a card from my manager who has to submit that to security. Security has to put me in the access control system. Then they have to get me down to the card office where I have to take a picture. Then they're going to run that card through a printer and then either hand it to me, or if you're like me, I did that whole process and then my card wasn't ready that day. So then they mailed that credential to me, right? So that all adds up in terms of that time, that 12 and a half minute provisioning process versus right around 1 minute or less. And when we really look at this in terms of physical cost, right? A lot of people say, well, the cost of my card is only $5 or $10. Yeah, that's true. But now we take that labor cost. That could cost you somewhere between $10 and $12. Then you have your incidental costs, right? I can't just give you a card. I got to give you the plastic sleeve. I got to give you the lanyard. I got to give you that stretchy thing, right? So now you're another $3 or $5 there. So now your actual landed cost of this physical card is somewhere between $20 and $30. Plus, you've got card printer maintenance. And by the way, you can't just have one card printer. You have to have two card printers. You've got the incidentals around the card printers. Right? I have to have the ink and all that sort of fun stuff. I have supply chain downtime that I have to deal with, right? Because I need to have cards and I have to keep those cards on the shelf. Depending on where you are in the country, you're spending somewhere between 60 to $200 per square foot of office space if you're leasing this office space. That gets costly. And then understand that 17% of those cards are going to get lost every year, and you're going to be doing this all over again versus the cost of a mobile credential. So a mobile credential is indeed a subscription-based service, but it's a predictable subscription service versus that 17%. Maybe I lose 17%, maybe I lose 20%, maybe I lose 30, maybe I lose 5. I don't know how many of these I'm actually going to print. I know my exact cost. How many employees do I have times $4 or times $6 MSRP. My labor cost is between $0 and $1. That $1 labor cost is for the most complicated way to distribute a mobile credential. $0 is self-service through features like Employee Badge and Apple Wallet, where people are provisioning their credential in an app. So the actual landed cost really is between that $5 and $7 price range, plus the bonuses. There's no card printer maintenance because there are no card printers. There's no supply chain downtime. You're only using what you need. You get to reallocate that valuable square footage to other things, or you get to decommission it and get it off your greenhouse gas emissions list. There's no more lost cards because there are no more cards, and you only pay for what you use. It also allows you to add a valuable user experience, which allows your organization to differentiate itself from other organizations that maybe are still provisioning a plastic card. And where those last two lines really resonate the most recently is in university, in higher education, where universities are trying to differentiate themselves from each other, as well as in commercial real estate, where you have a building. That building is offering a tenant experience. They're looking to amenitize all sorts of different things inside their facility, right? Their coffee bars, their rooftop lounges, they've got gymnasiums, they've got basketball courts, they've got all kinds of stuff. Well, inclusive of that is a tenant experience app where I walk into the building, I get a push notification. Welcome to the building. Check in a guest, check yourself in, provision yourself a mobile credential, order a latte to your desk. And this allows them to differentiate themselves so that when they charge that 60, 100, $200 per square foot, they know that they're also offering these other amenities that maybe their competing real estate owners do not offer, right? And that's where we start talking about the differentiation. So that's all the reasons why. Now let's talk about how we're going to do this. So the first step is you have to get what's called a mob key. So the way that HID does this is every organization gets its own specific set of encryption keys. And this way we can keep the communication between credential and reader as secure as possible. I'm sure you've seen lots of stuff on the internet lately about standard keys and why those things are bad. There are no standard keys in the mobile world. It's only mob keys and only custom encryption keys. So basically, all you have to do is sign up for an Origo portal account. You'll receive your custom mobile key. This is a free service. You get this at no charge. The mobile key is managed by HID, and we can't see your encryption key. You can't see your encryption key. So it's really super secure in that way. You're going to add that mob key, that mobile key, to your existing readers through the HID Reader Manager application, or I should say, or you're going to create a custom part number at HID for your Signo reader, where we factory preload your mob key on here for you. So every time you order one of these, it comes with your custom configuration inclusive of your mob key. And basically the way that the mob key works is the phone will be presented to the reader. The reader will say, whoa, 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 send me your mob key. The phone will send the mob key over, and then the reader and the phone will open up a random session. And then once the random session is established, then the format will be sent over. Once the format is sent, what comes out of the backside of the reader is a card number, right? So it doesn't matter what panel you're using, doesn't matter what access control software you're using to the panel, to the software, it just looks like a card number at that point. So now that you've got your reader, now that you've got your mob key, now you need to choose your experience. Excuse me, do you want the HID Mobile Access app-based experience, or do you want the wallet-based experience? And I'll take you through the pros and cons of each, or at least the highlights of each. So from the app experience, what would be required? Well, from a reader compatibility perspective, you're looking at HID Signo, as well as iClass and multi-class readers with a Bluetooth module. The reason why you need a Bluetooth module is because the transmission method supported on iOS is going to be Bluetooth only. Android phones will also use Bluetooth, but Android phones can also use NFC. But the bottom line is, in the United States, Apple owns about 60 to 70% market share for iOS, meaning 60 to 70% of your users are going to be using an iPhone, and therefore, with an app-based credential, you need to support Bluetooth Low Energy. The Signo reader is designed from the ground up to support BLE. Older iClass and multi-class SE readers used to ship with a BLE module if you ordered it that way, or you can field upgrade them to support a BLE module as well. The interaction types, and I'll show you a quick video on this, but basically you can tap your phone to the reader. You can do a feature called Twist and Go, where I take my phone, I twist it like a door handle, and it'll actually transmit the credential to the reader from a distance. I can remotely tap a button inside the app, and again, so long as your phone is within Bluetooth range of the reader, it will release the door. And you could even use your smartwatch. I do have hands-free mode on there as well. It's not something that I often recommend, but if you did want to set the read range of the reader really far and allow people to keep their phone in their pocket, you could do that as well. Obviously not super secure when you do it that way, so that would be like for convenience stores only. Your interaction speed is somewhere between 300 milliseconds to about a second and a half, depending on transmission distance. And your interaction range is about 15 feet at max. And that's all configurable on a reader by reader basis. So it's not uncommon to set the read range out really far, let's say for a loading dock type application. But for a regular door, maybe you only set the read range to be about 6 inches away from the reader. So as I mentioned, here's just a quick video. So in this scenario, I'm tapping the phone to the reader, and as you can see, I get a read, and I'm through the door. Here we're going to use remote control, which is just basically pressing that button inside the app, and it sends the signal to the reader. Here we have our twist and go, same scenario there. And then finally, with a smartwatch widget, I can open up the HID Mobile Access app on my smartwatch, tap the button, which will then transmit over Bluetooth to the reader. The provisioning of the credential is also, this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of that $1 provisioning step. So what the credential administrator would have had to have done at this point is go to the access control software and enter a user just like they normally would, like for a card, except instead of card, they're going to choose mobile credential. What then happens is, as a user, I'm going to receive an email. So you can see here, there was no credential in there. Here's my email with an invitation code. I tap that invitation code, I put it into the app, I hit redeem, and now I have my credential. That's it. I'm done. I'm fully provisioned with my credential inside of the app. And at this point, I can start tapping my phone to readers. And so long as I have access granted, I'm going to get access granted through the door. So that's the app-based world. Wallet is a little bit different. So with Wallet, your reader compatibility is still Signo, as well as iClass and multi-class SE readers. But you'll notice here, there's no requirement for Bluetooth Low Energy because Wallet supports NFC only. Okay, so there is no Bluetooth required here. You're going to use NFC both for iOS devices as well as Android devices that support Google Wallet. Your interaction type is also going to be tapping into the reader. Smartwatch tap as well, so I can take my Apple Watch or my Google Wear watch, tap it to the reader, and get through the door in very much the same way. That's different than the app-based world. In the app-based world, we actually need, if you're going to use the watch, it needs to be paired with the phone in real time. Like your phone has to still be in your pocket or in your purse when you're interacting with the watch. With Wallet, the watch is completely standalone. All you have to do is tap your wrist to the reader and you're through the door. And then I also have biometrics there. This is a really cool feature of Employee Badge in Apple Wallet, where we can, on a reader-by-reader basis, enforce multi-factor authentication at the door using the phone's Face ID or Touch ID. So if you wanted to have two-factor authentication today, right, what would that be? That would be a card and a PIN, or a fingerprint and a PIN, or a fingerprint and a card. But ultimately, for those biometrics, you as the organization owner need to own that biometric data. And a lot of organizations are trying to get away from that. They're trying to minimize their data for PII risk. Well, here, we all trust our Face ID and our Touch ID on device. So now, instead of just tapping my phone to the reader and getting through the door, I would tap my phone, unlock it with my face or my finger, and then tap it again, very much like how you would use Apple Pay in a store. The interaction speed is very fast, 200 milliseconds, just like a card. The only downside is your interaction range is right around 10 centimeters, which is the standard for NFC. So just like with Apple Pay, I have to present my phone to a payment terminal. I have to be sort of right on top of the reader. Same thing here with a Signal reader. So I'll show you a quick video of what that looks like. As you can see, this person takes the phone out of their pocket, shows it to the reader, and the phone knows what to do. The wallet knows what to do from there. Again, showing it to the reader, it pulls the exact right card. Here we're using it with Apple Watch to get into an elevator or to unlock a laptop or a workstation. And we can even support secure print terminals as well. And a really cool feature of is called Power Reserve Mode, where your phone battery can be completely depleted up to 5 hours and the credential will still transmit over NFC. That's not possible in the app-based world. So the tricky part to Wallet, so like the front end experience and the user experience is fantastic. The tricky part is Wallet requires what we call self-service provisioning. So as I mentioned earlier with the app-based stuff, you're going to go to your access control software and enter a new user just like you normally would. In the wallet-based world, the whole provisioning process starts with a smartphone user. You're going to provide them with an app. That app is what they're going to use to provision their own credentials. So they open up this app and then they log in with your organization's single sign-on. That single sign-on is going to be integrated to the Origo portal. And basically what happens is once they log in, their user profile is created in Origo and their card number is created. At that point, it gets pushed down to your access control software, as well as any other downstream systems that you use card data for. At the same time, that card number is then fed to the Apple Pay or Google Wallet service and lands on the person's phone. This whole thing takes about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on the user's internet connectivity speed. From a provisioning perspective, like from the credential manager's side of the house, this is that $0 implementation because there is no labor time. This all just happens sort of automagically in the background. The user requests their credential, it lands in the access control software, it lands on their phone, and you're done. Clearly, this needs to be thought through ahead of time because there's obviously integrations that need to be built here in order to support this. But there's good news there in terms of how we can support this. So if you have a really complex installation, for example, maybe it's a commercial property where you're trying to feed that card number into the base building as well as into several other access control softwares inside that base building, then we recommend working with one of our third-party systems technology integration partners that can build the app and build this sort of hub and spoke integration. So here is an example of that where we're using a third-party application. They're logging in using Okta, and now you can see the Add Pass to Wallet button is right there. We go through that Apple Pay user experience, and now the credential works on the Signal reader. And that's something that you can expect to happen. Or you can use the HID Mobile Access app with a limited number of access control head ends. So here you can see I'm just logging in using the organization single sign-on. So this is me actually getting my own badge for the HID office in Austin, Texas. You can see I'm entering my password, multi-factor authentication. Fast forward through that. Once I'm through that step, you can see it'll sign me in. And then the next screen I see is the Apple Pay user experience. I hit Add Pass to Wallet. It goes through the provisioning process. My pass is added. I hit done. And now I can see that credential not just in the app, but I also see it in the wallet. And then that credential is ready to go. And just in the interest of full disclosure, right? Here's my phone with my wallet. Here's a Signal reader. And now I get my read, right? That's exactly how it's designed to work. So the HID Mobile Access app provisioning experience is going to be released on October 1st and will be compatible with Genetec, Linnell, Secure, Avigilon, and Paxton at launch. We'll launch partnerships with other OEM manufacturers of access control software periodically over the next several months as well. So to wrap things up, the sort of the pros and cons and considerations between the app-based experience and the wallet-based experience. On the app-based side, your benefits, you got long read range, right? You can go out as far as 15 feet if you want to. You have more interaction options. I could do the twist and go. I could do the smartwatch thing. I could do the hands-free mode. There's no integrations required. If you really just wanted to do this as manually can be and like provision credentials directly from the Origo portal, you can certainly do that. But the Origo portal has integrations with most access control software systems out there. The things you should consider, however, is that for the optimal user experience, the app should be running in the foreground on people's phones. Why do I say that? Because of many reasons, but if the app is open, so here's the HID Mobile Access app, you can see it on my phone screen here. If the app is open and I present my phone to the reader, it's going to work 99.9% of the time. We do have the capability, and some folks have asked, well, can I keep my phone screen off? Can I just tap my phone to the reader? Will it work? Yes, it will. But what's going to happen is two things. One, if you're an iOS user and you get your phone close enough to a signal reader that is pumping out an NFC signal, it's going to bring up the Apple Wallet. And that is like a nuisance feature because the credential will still transmit. You'll still get a read, you'll still be able to get through the door, but the Apple Wallet will pop up and your user will invariably say, "Are you trying to charge me to get through this door?" And of course, no, I'm not trying to charge you to get through the door, but they see the Apple Wallet pop up and they get confused. The other thing that could also happen, the way that iOS is designed, it turns apps off. It puts them to sleep if they're not being used, especially apps that use Bluetooth. So periodically, iOS will turn off the mobile access app. And if you get close enough to the reader without the app on, and you try to just tap it with the phone screen off, nothing is going to happen because the app's not running. That goes away if we turn on location services, but a lot of people turn location services off. So in order to avoid all of that, you want the best experience with the app-based in the app-based world, keep that app open, and you're going to get through the door every time. On the wallet side, your benefits are super fast read speeds, 200 milliseconds or less, just like with the card. Your user experience is seamless, and the provisioning process is awesome, right? All you got to do is tell them, "Hey, download this app, log in with the same username and password you log in for every other business system here, and hit add pass to wallet," and you're done. Fantastic. And the wallet is always running, so you don't have to worry about the phone screen being on or off, or did I quit the wallet, or it's always going to work 100% of the time. Even if your phone is dead, it's still going to work. But the thing you need to consider is that the implementation is going to require real-time integration with your cardholder system. So specifically with your access control software, right? The Origo portal and the app and your SSO, all of that needs to be plugged in and turned on to work with each other. And it needs to be able to do that in real time, right? So as soon as that pass lands in the person's wallet, it's automatically working in your access control software. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, if you're using one of those 5 access control softwares that I talked about earlier, then we can do this natively starting October 1st. If you're using an access control brand that's not supported in that way, we have third-party technology partners that can build that integration for you as well. Last slide here, and it's all about enabling the extended use case. Whether you go with an app-based credential or a wallet-based credential, the bottom line is you want to ensure that you're supporting all of the use cases in your environment for that credential. If you're using a plastic card, like in this facility today, for all of these different use cases, and you decide to deploy a mobile credential, but you only support it for access control, and the person still has to use their card, let's say for their secure print or for their smart lockers or for their laptops and workstations, then they're not going to use the mobile credential, right? Because human beings will always take the path of least resistance. So enabling all of these different use cases in your environment to support either the app-based or wallet-based credential will ensure that you have a successful, ongoing, high user activation mobile credential program. Well, we are right at time. I pat myself on the back for wrapping it up exactly at 12:30 or 11:30 your time. My QR code is on the screen again. If you want to get in contact with me, that's a link directly to me on LinkedIn. I've also provided my contact information on the screen.